Hi everyone, it's me, Arielle, and it's Wednesday Warriors. And this week we're going to be talking about shifting perspective. And in this shifting perspective, I'll be talking about the space the eating disorder takes up when you're sick versus the space it takes up when you're well, and what the rest of that space is essentially filled with. Because when you are fully well, you will have a lot of empty space where your eating disorder used to be. I also want to talk about how it feels to truly feel emotions, because we have talked before in videos a couple of years ago about feeling emotions and how do I know what emotion I'm feeling, and I'll certainly link to all those videos so you can check those out if you haven't seen them. But when you are not using your eating disorder as a coping mechanism and you're not relying on behaviors to either numb yourself or to forget things or to feel that pain instead of maybe other pain or other emotions, a lot of the time you become bombarded with emotions that you're either feeling for the first time or emotions that you haven't felt in a while. And it can feel bad. And then a lot of people associate recovery with a bad feeling because they're feeling all of these emotions and they don't know what to do with them. But recovery is a great thing. Feeling these emotions means that you're human and that you're not numbing yourself with something terrible for you. You are allowing yourself to feel everything. And allowing yourself to feel everything can be really scary, especially when the things you're allowing yourself to feel are really negative things. But if you let yourself feel them and you work through them, eventually they don't take up a lot of space in your brain either. And you learn how to process emotions like a healthy person. And that's really the goal that most people in recovery want to achieve. I also want to talk about good feelings, good emotions, because when you're healthy and you're not sick, you're able to feel all the great stuff that you've been missing out on. You're able to really laugh, you're able to really smile, you're able to really enjoy things you didn't let yourself enjoy before, and you're really able to appreciate things you didn't have time to appreciate before because you were so preoccupied with all of the junk that the eating disorder was filling your mind with. I want to talk a little bit about how it feels to prefer all of that over the numbness of an eating disorder, and how things that maybe used to matter don't matter anymore when the eating disorder is gone, or when the eating disorder is in the process of being removed, because as we all know, recovery can be a process. You don't decide to be well and then the next day you wake up well and have no eating disorder. Everything comes in time, but the farther you remove yourself from your eating disorder, the better off you're going to be, and day by day you'll become healthier and healthier and healthier. I would also like to humanize this a little bit by telling you some things that I really love, things that matter to me, because I have time and energy for them to matter to me now that I don't have to have the eating disorder matter to me. As most of you know, I've been recovered for some time, so I don't have that eating disorder voice in my head. I don't have that eating disorder junk in there filling up my head and taking up my time and all of my energy. I'm able to put all of that energy into positive things. And even when bad things do happen, they are maybe one or two things among great stuff. So I'd like to talk about things that matter now, because I don't have to worry about the eating disorder, and also a little bit about how I react and feel when I think about stuff that I used to care about when I had an eating disorder. For example, does it make me sad that I wasted those years of my life, or do I feel that it served a purpose, or I guess basically just showing you the raw emotion of how it feels to have come far and be recovered and look back on that part of my life and what I think of it now in retrospect. I did a blog post years ago called Filling the Gap, and I'd like to post the link to that in the info box if you would like to check it out, because it's a question I get asked a lot. If I'm going to recover, what do I do with all of that time that I used to focus on the eating disorder, whether it was weighing myself, counting calories, focusing on all of the negative aspects of my persona or my appearance, being obsessed and preoccupied with food, things like that that when life revolved around behaviors, when you slowly relinquish those behaviors back into the void and you take back the power for yourself, what do you then do? How do you fill the gap? So I talk about that in a blog post from a while back, and it can be a challenge to fill the gap because it is a gap. It feels like you just let go of something and now you have this empty space. But here's the thing, it's empty space to fill however you want to fill it. It is all for you. You can do essentially whatever you want. Whatever you want. It's a crazy concept, but it's true. No one's making you count calories. No one's making you weigh yourself daily. No one's making you keep track of what you eat and don't eat. No one's making you be obsessed about food and weight. No one is making you purge or binge. No one is making you berate yourself. No one is making you do these things. You and your eating disorder as a team are making you do these things. And once you break that team and you become your own boss, there is no limit to what you can accomplish. As I said, I'm going to direct you to the videos that we did as a channel in the past about how do I know what emotion I'm feeling. Emotions can be really tricky. They can make us feel very vulnerable. And I think in a way, vulnerability can almost be an emotion because that feeling is very real. And it puts you in a place sometimes that just feels so uncomfortable and so almost childlike, like you have no control, or you're showing, every piece of yourself and you're not even sure who you are yet, so you don't want anyone else to see all that raw stuff. But being able to deal with those emotions is so important because if you push them away, or if you hide yourself away from them, or if you cover them up with unhealthy behaviors that the eating disorder showed you, then you're missing out on all of the great stuff. You can't have only the good emotions. It doesn't work that way. You either get to feel your emotions or you don't get to feel your emotions. And if you choose not to feel any emotions, you are numb. You are experiencing just the miserable void of life. You don't get any of the good stuff. If you choose to feel your emotions, you have to take the bad with the good, but you get all of the good. And I think that's worth it. I think it's very worth it. And sometimes we're scared of feeling everything because we fear all the bad, but the fear of all the bad keeps us from experiencing all of the good. And usually the good does outweigh the bad. Some things that matter to me now that didn't matter to me before when I was sick, or couldn't matter to me before because I just didn't have the time or energy to deal with them, is my writing, for example. I have always been a writer, and I always wrote when I was sick, and I used my writing as a form of therapy, and I used my writing to sort of help me vent and get out my feelings and struggle to deal with those emotions through writing. And sometimes my writing was negative. Sometimes my writing was just searching. Sometimes my writing was positive, but it was always weighed down by all of the bad eating disorder stuff. And as I recovered, I was able to realize that writing is not just something that people do when they're sad. It's not just something that people do when they're depressed. It's not just something that people do when they're angry or upset or miserable. Writing is a way to express joy. Certainly writing is a way to express pain. It is, and it can be a really helpful tool. But writing is also about all of the good stuff out there. Writing is to celebrate, and I certainly have learned that I can celebrate through my writing, which is fantastic. And I think I didn't ever really understand that that could be possible when I was sick. So now I write for me, and I write for other people. And I'm able to help other people through my writing, and that feels really good. And that's something that I couldn't even fathom doing when I was sick. I might have wanted to do it. It might have been a wish of mine, but it wasn't possible. I couldn't do it in the state that I used to be in. Something else that matters to me now is my husband. I mean, I will be married for 4 years in April, and I was healthy when we got married. Was already recovered at that point, but if I hadn't been recovered, I'm not saying that I wouldn't have gotten married or we wouldn't have fallen in love or anything like that, but I wouldn't have been giving over my best self, and that's okay. Sometimes we have to just be real with the people that we love. But I know that I couldn't have enjoyed marriage the way that I do if I was still struggling with an eating disorder. I wouldn't be able to experience the ups and downs and the little anxieties and, small arguments here and there. If I was so sick, I wouldn't have been able to deal with them appropriately. They would have probably floored me and put me out for the count and made me so miserable in an over-the-top kind of way. I'm able to deal with life because I'm healthy. I'm able to deal with life because I'm recovered. And I'm able to love my husband the way he deserves to be loved because I am healthy and well. And as I said, certainly I would have loved him if I was still sick. It doesn't change the feelings because I'm now well, but I'm able to do everything I want to do and be everything I want to be and experience everything in a beautiful way. And I'm able to appreciate my marriage for what it is instead of being preoccupied and obsessed with weights and numbers and food and anorexia. So when I think about my former self, the woman who was struggling with an eating disorder, and mine was anorexia, I am very sad for her. And if I read things that I wrote at the time that I was really struggling, or I think about memories, events that occurred from when I was really sick and struggling, I do get sad. And it feels to me like I'm reading this story of this miserable, ill person. But then I remember that I know how the story ends. I know how the story ends because here I am, and I'm reading it, and I'm healthy, and I'm well, and I'm recovered, and I'm happy. So I don't have to be sad because I know how the story ends, and it's me. Here I am, and the story ended great. So I don't have any reason to be sad. I do think in a lot of ways that my eating disorder served a purpose for me because I think it, in a way, showed me my calling. I feel like the things that I do for eating disorder recovery through my website, through videos, through the eating disorder support group that I lead, through graduate school for my MSW in order to counsel people, all of the stuff that I do for eating disorder recovery, I think that I was propelled that way and pushed that way because of my own experience with an eating disorder. So it really made my life into a beautiful work of art. I think that my eating disorder history is a part of me and always will be, but it's not who I am. I'm not an eating disorder, and I'm not a history of an eating disorder. I'm a woman, and my name is Arielle, and I have recovered from an eating disorder, and I'm very proud to say that. So my eating disorder may have brought me sadness, but recovering from my eating disorder brings me a lot of pride. And that's something that I wish for all of you. Have a great week, everyone.